is what is entrepreneurship? And in this tribe, there are thousands of entrepreneurs. And if you asked every single one of them what it was to be an entrepreneur, you'd probably get a different response from each of them. Because entrepreneurship is about you. It's not about other people. It's not about what what other people think. It's about you. It's about what you think. It's about your value. And that's my definition of entrepreneurship. Is that entrepreneurship is the goal of finding and maximizing your personal value. And honestly, for some people, that might even be through a job. I mean, that's not the way I think that most people are going to maximize their value, because I think it's designed so that you can't get ahead in a job. But really, it's all about your personal value and how do you maximize that personal value. So I'm going to talk about that first and second line, and I'm going to talk about it together. So what is entrepreneurship and what is my value? And from my perspective, your personal value is tied to three things. It's tied to what you're doing, the product, the service, the market. It's tied to how you interact with the people, the chemistry, interpersonal characteristics of the people that you're working with and your clients. So how does your personality jive with the people you're working with and jive with the people that you're serving or selling to? And then, the third thing is, what is your specific skill set? What's your background? What are your hard skills, soft skills, all the things that have made you who you are today? When you put those three things together, it's going to basically define your value. So you could have a product, service, interpersonal relationships, chemistry, something that really matches well with your background, and your value could be $1 million a year. Or you being the same person could be, flipping burgers at McDonald's, not aligning with your skill set. You may hate your manager, and your personal value is going to be much less. So I think that your personal value isn't a fixed number. It depends on the product, it depends on the market, it depends on you, and it depends on the people around you. So when you're looking at maximizing personal value, there's a couple of things you have to think about. So looking at this from an employee perspective. So you're an employee, and you're in a specific job working with specific people, utilizing a section of your skill set. Now that job, by design, can't pay you your value. An employer will never pay you your value. That's the reason they hired you, is to siphon off your value. That's the whole point of hiring people. If I own a business and I bring somebody on, I want them to make the business $500,000, and I want to pay them $100,000. That's the whole point of hiring somebody. And so intrinsically, the way that business is designed, you're never going to realize your full value working as an employee. It's just not going to happen. I did some research into, I think it was Apple for 2018. Their average employee made $500,000, but what they paid them was closer to like $100,000. So it's kind of like the total value of each employee, because if they're making profit of $500,000, they're paying them $100,000. So each average employee is bringing them like $600,000, and they're getting 1/6 average of their value. I mean, I'm sure there are people in there making $250,000, $500,000, but those people's total value is probably in the millions. So Apple is siphoning off their value, as any employer does. So then if you pull them out of that situation and say, hey, you go work for yourself. This is where I think the core is of entrepreneurship. And that's what they said. Like I said, there is a place for employment in entrepreneurship. But I think where you're going to maximize your value is going to be working for yourself in your own business. And that's really the way to do it. But if you're going to be successful in that, it takes those three things. You have to get started in something in your business that aligns with your background, that aligns with your skill set. Soft skills, hard skills, a mix of them. It somehow has to align. You have to have people around you that synergize. I'm sure a lot of people watching this have probably read the E-Myth, where it talks about technicians, managers, and visionaries or entrepreneurs. So when you get into that, when you get into getting into what is a team that makes you successful, that you need to find people that you work well with, and that's going to increase your value. That chemistry, that interpersonal chemistry, can be the difference between coming in and doing 20% of what you would normally do, trying to babysit everybody and micromanage everybody because you're not doing your job, or you coming in and all working together and doing 10 times what you would normally do. That can be the difference. And then finding a product or service that fits the market, that actually has a demand in the economy. And figuring out all that stuff can be hard. You know, one of the mental exercises I go into in the book that I'm writing is that if you flip it on its head, so Apple makes 500,000, pays an employee 100,000, right? And these are, don't quote me on the numbers, they're rough. I have the actual numbers in the book, but so you have these numbers. When you flip it on its head, your value is you, it's personal. So in that position, doing what you're doing, your value is 600,000. You're paying them $500,000 for the privilege of taking advantage of their money-making operation. So they've found a way to make money. You want to make money with them, and you're paying them your value in order to use their money-making system. And that's just like an intellectual exercise that kind of helps me wrap my head around what it is to be an employee or employee in the context of entrepreneurship and the idea that everyone's an entrepreneur trying to maximize their value. So when you take that into account and say, hey, I'm paying this company $500,000 of my personal value, taking home $100,000. Now, if I were to go out into business on my own, how much am I willing to pay to realize 100% of my value? So if you go into a different product, a different service, a different group of people, utilizing a different section of your skill set, you know, your total value might only be $200,000. But if you're realizing 100% of that value, that's twice what you were making working the job. So this is where I think that entrepreneurship is really powerful. And I think it's something that a lot of people really don't understand is how do you quantify your own value? So then the last question, because I don't want to make this overly long, is how do I start in entrepreneurship? So there are lots of ways to start. The biggest way to start is to try to find something in the market, an opportunity. Entrepreneurs are opportunity hunters. You know, we just look, where's the opportunity at? Where's the market shifting? Where's the demand shifting? Anything you see, we need this here. If you can fill that hole with something, it's a good way to get started. Another way to get started is to try to monetize yourself. So that's where social media comes in, and you know, YouTube channels and podcasts, writing how-to books. You know, as Tom Antion would often say, you know, it's one of the biggest sellers right now is how-to books. And we all have our own specific knowledge, specific skill sets that we could write books about. You know, doing research on how to monetize those. So, you know, or just starting something on the side if you're good at fitness, you know, getting certified as an instructor, just putting yourself out there. And this is where you can have some overlaps with a job. So you can work a job and start entrepreneurship part-time. You don't have to jump head in. You don't have to go, you know, all or nothing when it comes to entrepreneurship. You can start to work yourself out of a job. You can also use a job for strategic skill building. So if you see something, if you know where you want to go, but you're still not quite sure to get there. Say you want to start refinishing cars or repairing cars, and you love doing stuff mechanical, but you don't really understand the invoicing, the logistics, all the things required to do it. You could go work for a car repair place, and just, if you're an eager person that wants to get up there and be like, oh, I'll do that, I'll do that, I'll do that, you'll probably learn how to do all the logistics, the parts ordering, who the suppliers are, how they handle HR, all these things. And you're basically leveraging them. And yes, you're paying them a portion of your value, but you're doing it on purpose to develop a specific skill set. So that is strategic employment for the purpose of eventual entrepreneurship, of starting your own business. And then, of course, the last thing that I would put out there is franchising, right? Everyone here knows that I'm the franchise guy. And people that were watching is probably like, how many minutes is he going to talk before he says the word franchising? Well, it's 10 minutes and 40 seconds-ish. But yeah, so franchising actually fits into a subcategory that I would call partnerships. So if there's somebody else, like say your neighbor owns a landscaping company, he's like, hey, I need more help on here. You come on, you know, you do your thing and I'll do mine. We'll split the profits 50-50 or something like that. Or you and a family member, or maybe even you and your spouse. You start a partnership. That is going to business together. So ideally, you know, the way that a lot of partnerships work is somebody knows what they're doing when it comes to running a business, and another person wants to get out and start their own business. I mean, If both people are going into entrepreneurship and neither of them know how to start a business, it's still going to be a bumpy ride. Not to say you can't get there, especially if you're working hard. But if one of the partners actually knows how the ins and outs of running a business, I think you're going to be a lot more successful, a lot quicker. And that's where franchising fits into the whole entrepreneurship thing. Is it's a partnership. You're buying into a partnership when you buy into a franchise. They have a product. They know how to take it to market. They know how to do all the different things that are involved in a business. And so almost any franchise will tell you don't have to have entrepreneurship or know how to run a business to become one of their successful franchisees, because you're basically bringing them on as a partner. So that's all I'm going to say about that, because this video isn't about franchising, even though I think franchising is an incredible part of entrepreneurship.